and they just didn't respond to the metrics we're using to measure the service that people are proposing. In talking with Cody, the chief, their idea would be to terminate the current agreement, reestablish an entirely new authority with a new agreement, and to start, the way they got to our cost was they just took total police service, backed out Bromley, backed out Park Hills, and we wrote the remainder. They added the most officers to cover what amounts to 3 cities, so that's not quite apples to apples, because it's the other 2 are for a 2-city model. But I think their belief was by locating or recommending that their headquarters be located in the Crescent Springs police space, they thought they positioned themselves geographically more centrally, and had that additional coverage territory that the other 2 cities didn't. Same with CERS. We're just not sure if folks will come to us and say your percent of the total staffing is X, or your percent of the total police operations budget is Y. Here's your share of CERS's increase. So that's probably how it'll work out. In terms of Fort Mitchell, that sort of speaks to how they did the cost model and the CERS. They just tallied up our share of what their future model would look like. I mentioned how they got to their startup cost number, the allocation that they have offered. George did some math. If we allocated the 450 over 4 years, it was like 150 something thousand onto their
968,000, and it was an additional 156.
156. They added 6 officers, so 1 more than Villa Hills, but 4 less than Park Hills. CERS would apply that 37% rule. They were the only agency to put a termination notice in there 1 year, which we had some experience with Erlanger, and the only caveat to that was if there are startup costs that remain due, they have to be paid before the termination takes effect. One thing I did notice in their proposal that I was struck by is Andrews instituted a career pathing model for their police officers, and I thought that was something a little bit different, where they develop individual development plans with the officers for everything from training to career planning to advancement to experiences they want to get, et cetera. So it was something worth noting. This week, with Megan's help, we'll follow up to get a bunch of answers to the questions. A couple of them were we needed to confirm from Fort Mitchell how many of their current staff are retired rehire officers, and whether or not they are at their cap of legally permitted officers of that type. I mentioned what was it, the other thing we were following up on? We had an email list put together of the questions. We'll reconnect on Friday, after folks have had a chance to look at the proposals, get these answers back to the questions we'll put out. Hopefully, get a better sense of, what the scoring will start to look like. Essentially, the committee is sitting down and going through the proposals, and measuring the response to the metric. The questions are weighted, and then the formula just calculates out the score. The week of October 16th, so next week, we'll do any further follow-ups that we need to. Revisit the scoring or analysis. I think a good example is that Villa Hills is saying, oh no, that K9's a 6th officer, we have to go back and adjust the scoring to reflect that fact, versus no, it's a current officer, and then we'll make the appropriate changes there. The intent is to bring a recommendation, the intent is to then on October 20th, the committee get together with Megan to develop the committee's recommendation that will then bring to the October 23rd caucus, and Megan will be here for that. I think that's it.
Okay. Next item, new business. Resolution 2017-7, letter of support for Megan's Crossing.
Everybody familiar with Megan's Crossing?
No.
Megan's Crossing is the 11 acres that's undeveloped behind Dale's Ramsey house. Megan's Crossing is a 11-unit apartment complex that I reported on about 3 weeks ago. That they're applying for not subsidized housing, but monies through the state of Kentucky for housing. And they've got a proposal on the 11 acres there to develop it with multifamily unit apartments.
11 units though?
It was 11 acres, it was 24 units, I believe. From what
Section 8?
No.
It's subsidized.
Just
Subsidized, but it's not Section A.
Veterans, towards veterans get a better benefit.
Right.
Okay.
It's through the Housing Corporation in Frankfurt. And all this letter is that the city would support that funding of housing for this particular company. I believe you asked me, Tom, to put something in your basket or file folder, if you remember, you were researching the Wuda company. That's what it was, the Wuda company.
And where would, just out of curiosity, where would the ingress and egress be?
Off Wood Hill.
You told me where. It's like between, there was a swimming pool.
Where the
or
pool
There
something.
used to be a swimming pool there where the pool was, that's where the egress would be. And,
What does it actually a letter of support mean?
just that the city has been approached by
Wood,
Wuda and. that
What is
they-
it again?
Wood.
Wuda
Wuda.
Corporation.
Who is Wuda?
They were based out of Columbus, Ohio. They're big.
They're big.
Yeah, they're big
They're big.
around the country.
Tom researched them.
Tom, I'm glad you told me the pronunciation, because I would have said Woda, like Yoda.
Wuda.
That's the
Wuda.
Kentucky version.
Anyway, they built one in Shelbyville, Kentucky. They broke ground in Walton, Kentucky for a project in Eminence, Kentucky, and they're housed out of Shelbyville. That's where their main office is, or the Kentucky office is. But they're in several states offering these projects.
And do we know who Megan is, just out of curiosity?
Could be one of their
Somebody's
daughters. I
That's
don't
what I
really
thought.
know. I don't know.
Like
That's
we
just
got
the name of the
Emily up
cross.
there.
It's a sister of Emily and Sam.
Have they purchased this land?
They've got an option on it.
They've got an option.
Same difference for the
Winterburg.
Winterburg property, but that is Alpha Bravo Corporation that was formed by a wounded warrior who went in business with a lady construction company owner in Ohio, and they've made application twice to the Kentucky Housing Corporation to do the same thing on a Winterburg property, and they have not received their funding yet. And this lady from the Wuda company says she used to work for the Housing Corporation, and she'll get hers done.
Does this
Get
letter
the
help
inside
her
track.
You got the inside track.
achieve that
I would-
funding?
I would say it would, yeah.
They help who?
The
Wuda
lady
company.
from the Wuda company.
If this other project ever came to fruition, how many units are they talking about up there?
Winterburg?
I can't recall off the top of my head. It was around the same amount. In fact, I believe it was a little less. This is
So
an
it was a lot
11-acre
less.
Yeah, it
tract.
had to be
Yeah.
less.
Yeah, it's a
lot
4-acre
less.
tract.
Yeah.
Would a letter from us help them?
They got a letter.
Oh, okay.
They-
Gotta
We did
keep in
that.
mind- We've got to keep in mind, we currently have close to 50% of our housing in rental.
That's interesting.
I thought we actually went over 50% at one point.
It's 52.
I think the last census.
And the other issue is that Winterburg property was owned by Raymond Orpenbeck, and it hasn't been developed in 30 years, and Winterburg has been on the market for 5 years, 6 years, and, you know, and that hasn't been approved, and that's been submitted twice.
Did they ever get the abandonment of Lynn Street?
Lynn Street, from what I understand, the county was supposed to take it before the commission, and I believe that they were in favor of it for something happened that didn't happen.
So the people like residing in the one where it's being proposed by someone with the Wounded Warriors project, I assume that these apartments would be fitted for the disabled?
Yes, some of them.
Okay.
They're townhomes.
They're townhomes which the people would purchase on their own, or they'd rent
Correct.
from?
They rent,
They
lease.
rent.
Mhm.
Okay, so
But-
it wouldn't be like a group home?
No. The individual units.
Okay.
And looking into the two companies, from what I understand, that the difference between the Wounded Warrior applicant and the WUDA applicant is WUDA builds theirs and manages theirs and maintains them. And they're supposed to do a very, very good job. The Wounded Warriors, I know they were building them, but I don't know who was going to lease them or maintain them.
Resolution 2017-7, a resolution of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, supporting a new development in the City of Crescent Springs to be called Megan's Crossing to increase the availability of affordable housing. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky has been approached by the WUDA Group, Inc. with regard to the development of property in the City of Crescent Springs to build affordable housing to be called Megan's Crossing. And whereas the City of Crescent Springs believes that affordable housing has become a matter which should be addressed within the city. And whereas the WUDA Group intends to file an application with PDS and has requested whether the city would sign a letter in support of the application. And whereas the city deems it advisable to support the development of affordable housing for its, should say residents, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky supports the development of Megan's Crossing and authorizes the city administrator to sign a letter in support of the application to be filed with the WUDA Group, Inc. for the development of Megan's Crossing.
Did you say PDS?
Yeah.
They have
application
to start
will be made.
somewhere. I thought that's what,
I
maybe
thought
I
the
misunderstood.
whole idea of the support was for the Kentucky Housing Corporation.
I'm believing we got two things we want to do. What now?
I thought the letter of support was for the Kentucky Housing Corporation.
It's for the WUDA Corporation to apply for
To
the
the-
housing.
Right. To the Kentucky Housing Corporation,
Not
not PDS.
All right, so I jumped ahead of their days here.
I guess that
Jumped
begs
ahead.
that begs the question, do they need a zone change?
No. It's R1. It's
Yeah.
multifamily.
PDS was the one that threw me, I didn't like PDS.
I apologize for that.
All right.
I
But
misunderstood.
it's Kentucky Housing Corporation.
Yeah, I'll make that change. I misunderstood the message.
And he probably misunderstood it was sent to him by our city clerk who wrote him the email. I didn't send it. So she may have been under the impression it was PDS. It's the Housing Corporation.
Okay, any questions or comments on Resolution 2017-7? If not, call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2017-7 as written.
Bob's made the
As
motion
amended, I guess I should say.
as amended.
Second.
Mike second. Roll call.
Christie Arlinghouse?
Yes.
Mike Daugherty?
Yes.
Bob Mueller?
Yes.
Matt Zach?
Yes.
Tom Bergamini?
Yes.
Carter Dickerson?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item is Resolution 2017-8. Authorize city administrator to sign agreement with Kentucky for restrooms, LWCF grant at the park.
Resolution 2017-8, a resolution of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, authorizing the city administrator to execute a memorandum agreement with the Commonwealth of Kentucky Department of Local Government for a federal grant to install restrooms at the Crescent Springs Community Park. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky operates the Crescent Springs Community Park, and whereas the Commonwealth of Kentucky Department of Local Government has agreed to provide a grant to the City of Crescent Springs that will assist in underwriting and funding the installation of restrooms at the Crescent Springs Community Park. And whereas the memorandum agreement requires the City of Crescent Springs to agree to maintain the facilities and undertake other obligations with regard to the timeliness of the installation of said facilities. And the city further agrees to other conditions enumerated in the memorandum agreement which the city finds agreeable. And whereas the city has determined that it is in the best interest of the residents of the city of Crescent Springs to have such facilities, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky hereby approves the terms and conditions of the memorandum agreement presented by the Commonwealth of Kentucky Department of Local Government, and further authorizes the city administrator to execute said agreement on behalf of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky.
Before you make a motion, let me explain to you what that is again. I should have done it under my report. 3 years ago, we applied for land, water, and conservation grant for a $59,000 grant to add 2 restrooms and a drinking fountain, which is human/dog, to go by it. We applied for that grant through the land, water, and conservation grant, and was turned down twice. And we received this grant this 3rd time. And that is for $59,000 to put the restrooms in. It's an 80-20. 20% of our match is in kind, with labor, digging, doing all the plumbing, running the plumbing down toward Christie's Lake. But that's what that grant's for.
So Bob wanted me to ask, the drinking fountain that is part human, part animal, are those 2 different fountains, or is it the same fountain?
Same fountain.
Same general structure.
Yeah, I've not
And
seen
the fact that
different
he's
bowls.
messing with me, but since our park is a dog-friendly park, and everybody comes up, and I've seen them at our current drinking fountain, holding it down, letting their dog jump up on the
Oh,
front.
boy.
They have
Oh.
a smell bar.
Oh, boy.
So they have them in
Let
other
them come and
parks.
drink at Lake.
So we've seen them in other parks. So what it is a human up at the top, and at the bottom,
Yes, okay.
It's
They
also
fills your
good
bowl.
for cleaning out soccer cleats.
I can just see some
Yeah.
little
Down
kids
the same
falling
fountain.
there and
Yeah.
getting into that.
They even have them, you can fill up your bottles on the side too. On the top, they have bottle, put
On the top
bottles
of
up,
your
fill
feet, you can
bottles.
see them.
Very nice.
but to answer your question, Mac, yes.
Thank you. It's a good question, Bob.
I can just see a small child going into the dog fountain now.
Probably
Do I
won't.
now?
Going into the dog fountain.
No,
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 no, it's not a fountain.
it's just a little bowl.
It's a bowl.
But still, whatever
Well,
it is,
oh, I'm
some
sure
kid's
they'll-
gonna get in there.
they'll probably-
No, it'll go out. I mean, if it's like.
It drains out.
Drains out.
It
There's
drains
one
out.
over, yeah.
Okay.
There's one over
I
by
can
the
just see
tennis
somebody
courts
playing
and-
with it.
What is
Is that Fort Mitchell?
No,
Older
it's
kids
Cincinnati
like,
downtown.
"Meow."
Now, it won't be a
Smell.
child, Chris,
Kid.
it'll be somebody on a bed.
Someone's what?
Bet can't do it.
Anyway,
Thought this through.
that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
the proposal
I like
is,
it.
or the project is.
Okay.
Okay.
Any discussion or questions?
Well, will this restroom connect with the other restroom in any form or fashion?
No.
No, separate.
Where
Next
does
to
the
the
line
drinking
go?
fountain.
Other
Place.
than Christie's- other than
Down to
Christie's
Christie's
Place.
Christie's Lake, all
Christie's
the sanitation lines will run past shelter number 3, go down to the corner below, downhill. It's all downgrade, so we got a good flow. Water lines will come off of the water lines.
But where does
is
it
going
connect to the sanitation?
down
There's
by
a big
Christie's.
There's a big
thing
catch
and a
basin
white
down in the creek down there.
PVC pipe.
Yeah.
By
There's
her
a
house.
6-inch PVC pipe coming out of the
So there's under
manhole.
the soccer field?
Goes under
No,
the
past
property
the
beside
side.
it, past it.
Goes under
In the
hill.
ground.
Almost to her house down there where the creek comes around. There's
It's
a
really
big catch
delightful to
basin,
look at in
concrete
the
that
winter.
sticks
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But how are you gonna run the line from the shelter to that basin? Where's that line?
PVC pipe underground with a
where.
ditch with
You'll
it.
have to dig.
It has to go down the hill and around to the side of the soccer field.
Skirt the outside.
To the Christie side of the soccer field?
And it'll all be going northeast.
Christie side of the soccer field, okay.
Okay. Call for a resolution of 2017-8.
I'll move to approve.
Mike's made a motion to approve 2017-8. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Carter, second. Roll call?
Mike Daughtry,
Yes.
Bob Mueller,
Yes.
Matt Zach,
Yes.
Tom Bergamini,
Yes.
Carter Dickerson.
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse.
No, I think too much is flowing down in my direction. Yes. I was gonna say something else.
Was that a no or a
Yes.
It
yes?
was a
All right.
joke and then a yes.
All right, passes
Runs
unanimously.
downhill.
It runs down
Sarcastic yes.
my sarcasm.
That's what I say about my practice.
Okay. Any other new business?
I've just got a question for Carter. I think it's you. What about the monuments of the park? Are we doing anything with that?
We are. Lou is more in touch in the fundraising stage at this point.
Right.
He's moving.
I've got a
forward with that.
letter prepared with signatures from the judge executive and the county sheriff and a number of mayors throughout the county. We'll be going out with that letter probably in the next week or two, April.
She's been working on the letter. I don't know
I'm sorry?
what's going
Want to bring
on.
up the
Letter's
topic of
already
the
done.
meeting?
About the what meeting?
The meeting with the Dukes.
I saw something in my email today, but I can't read email at work, so
There's a
I'm
meeting on October 30th with representatives of Duke, and all council members are invited at the firehouse.
What's it for?
For what?
Their gas reserve.
The one on Brahma Crescent Spring Road?
No,
On Amsterdam? Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'd like to hear that.
Well, you're invited. Firehouse at 7 o'clock on the 30th.
Okay, the other items, October 19th is the finance meeting. October 21st is Halloween in the park. Hope everybody comes and puts on a face or something. And, yeah, dress up. October 23rd is caucus meeting. October 31st is trick or treat in the park.
Not in the
No
park.
trick or treat.
On the street.
On the streets. Oh, okay.
Just trick or treat night.
All right, 6 to 8. November 1st, events and recreation meeting, and November 13th is our next council meeting.
And quickly, I just want to point out that we got the numbers back in after the second annual Music Fest, and I wanted to thank April because she did an amazing job, largely doing all of the fundraising or sponsorship signups herself, and ordering almost all of the supplies. And due to her hard work, each city, Villa Hills and Crescent Springs, is only on the hook for a little over $500, which is a pretty decent price to pay for such a fun event that was well attended. So thank you, April, for the hard work.
Yeah, thanks, April.
good job.
Good job.
And we appreciate you covering that 500 out of your pocket.
One thing I'd like to bring up is our Christmas in the Park's coming up, and if anybody would like to volunteer with the person in charge of that, which is Bob this year, I would just let Bob know.
What?
You're in charge?
Christmas in the Park this year?
My?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aren't
Matt and
you
I are in
Santa Claus?
charge of the water fountain. You're in charge of the Christmas in the Park.
Seems fair.
Seems fair?
Am I allowed to say
Go ahead.
about that? I wanted to let you know,
Yeah.
I'll make this one good.
Oh, okay.
He won't say it himself. Matt was a nominee for elected official of the year for the state of Kentucky. Turns out Butch Calorie, ran down to Frankfurt ahead of him and must have been.
Took more supporters.
Yeah,
He knows
Butch won that award, but I think the mere fact to be nominated is quite an honor, and I think it's a small recognition of the work you put in.
Well, thank you. Thank
I
you.
have one other thing for our resident. I don't know if you saw this. You saw it in the Enquirer, but Rob Ballad, who happens to be a legal colleague of mine, and who's a resident of Crescent Springs and has been very active in the city for years, has been nominated for the alternate Nobel Prize.
Wow.
It's a great article.
And there was an article in yesterday's Enquirer about it, and one of the questions that really struck me, and I even asked him about this, was why did he live in northern Kentucky? We just talked about living in northern Kentucky, and he particularly pointed out Crescent Springs is a wonderful place.
You did. We were mentioning Viney.
often you don't get and granted, it's not the Nobel Prize, it's the ultimate Nobel Prize, but it's worldwide recognition for a Crescent Springs resident. And I think it's well deserved, and I think probably all have met him at one time or other.
As a follow-up to that article, I heard a complete rumor that I cannot confirm, that they were actually creating a movie based on the situation that they spoke about in the article, which was essentially that he sued, he represented residents of West Virginia who were having their cattle that were being killed off by some chemicals that turned out that he ended up suing, or his firm sued DuPont and won. And that's really what kind of led to his environmental law. And they apparently are creating a movie based on that story.
Well,
So that's what I heard.
Is that true and only Aaron Brockovich?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
Julia Roberts going to be starting this.
There was already a
Nobody did.
there was already a National Geographic special on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's already been run, and it talked about just pollution of the water, but, yeah, so.
But there was a rumor of who the actor is that would play Rob a lot, and it was Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, yeah.
He's the actor that did the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, he was nominated this past year.
That's real-
Spotlight.
Yeah, it's just a rumor. Yeah, just a rumor.
Wow.
Just verbal.
He has that, right?
Yeah.